I think, Vera, we could begin.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ivona. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of ITDP, I'm very, very honored to welcome each one of you to the official launch of the Cycling Cities campaign. I am delighted to see you all and to welcome you all this morning here in Mexico and probably evening and afternoon somewhere else. So wherever you are, welcome. This session offers live translations for Bahasa Indonesia, Spanish, and Portuguese. And to access different language channels, please click the globe icon and select the language of your choice. We are here because we know we need a dramatic shift away from transportation systems that rely on cars. We're launching Cycling Cities during the COP26 because cycling is the original zero emissions transportation and can help us get us to our climate goals. Much higher levels of cycling could reduce CO2 emissions from urban transport by half and make cities not only more clean, but also more human. We know what it needs to be done, and we need stronger commitments and policies from cities and national governments. So let's hear more about the Cycling Cities campaign from ITDP's CEO, Heather Thompson, and campaign coordinator, Dana Janosha. Please welcome Dana and Heather.
My name is Heather Thompson, and I am the CEO of the Institute for Transportation and Development Policy. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all as we kick off ITDP's Cycling Cities campaign. ITDP is an organization founded on cycling beginning back in 1985 with a campaign called Bikes Not Bombs. Since the beginning, we have been advocating for cycling as a solution for creating a better environment, increasing access, and delivering more equitable cities for all people. Now, 35 years later, with experience all over the globe, we are launching the Cycling Cities campaign, which calls for 25 million more people near safe cycle lanes by 2025. Our cities aren't where they should be. From rising motorization and emissions to more time spent commuting to increasing inequality, the approach prioritizing motor vehicles has created many urban challenges. Road crashes are a leading cause of injury and death globally, particularly for the youth. Transportation is one of the leading causes of local air pollution in cities and greenhouse gas emissions contributing to climate change. With COVID, we saw a resurgence of cycling as a resilient form of transport, with pop-up bike lanes blooming across cities around the world. Cycling is a low-cost solution that can transform our cities in a short time frame, and we don't have time to lose. This campaign is a call for collective action and a vision for a new world. It calls for cities around the world to build safe cycle lanes, implement supportive policies, allocate funding, and provide educational support so that by 2025, 25 million more people have access to safe cycling. Cycling can help create the resilient, equitable, and safe cities of the future, and we look forward to taking this journey with you.
For more than 35 years, ITDP has been on the ground in cities, learning about how and why people travel. We know that cycling fills an important gap in our mobility systems. For many cities, trips under 5 kilometers are a great fit for the bicycle. Cycling is flexible, reliable, affordable, and it supports many different types of trips. Cycling is good for people. It makes us healthy, providing us opportunities for physical activity and better mental health, and it lowers our risk for cardiovascular disease. Cycling is good for our planet. More people on bicycles means fewer trips by car. This reduces air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, which harm our environment. Cycling is good for our cities. As demand for cycling increases, we don't need to spend as much building new roads, parking garages, or other infrastructure for cars. Instead, we can use those funds to cultivate lively, active streets that prioritize people. The pandemic has spurred this demand for walkable, bikeable places, and we've seen a rapid response from cities to those calls. Now we have a choice. We can go back to unsafe, polluted, traffic-choked streets built for cars, or we can build on this momentum around cycling and create the long-term benefits for better cities, better planet, and for ourselves.
A cycling city is a city where its people love the experience of cycling. Any city in this world, irrespective of its size or location, can be a cycling city. It's a city where the caregivers can cycle safely with their children. It's a city where commuters can travel to work on cycles without getting stuck in traffic. It's a city where cyclists can engage and interact with the surroundings. It's a city where school children can cycle safely to their schools and cycle. A cycling city empowers all its people to travel safely and freely across its city.
The foundation of a cycling city is a connected and safe cycle network. Having dedicated and ideally protected space on the street is the cornerstone, but also having the cycle lanes being connected into a network that links across the city is equally as important. The intersection design solidifies the network.
Complementing that are safe and frequent places to park, access to bikes, whether it be through bike share or bicycle shops, and supporting programming, helping people learn to cycle and feel comfortable, such as car-free days, cycling clinics, and organized bike rides.
Cities can make that happen, and it's up to them to actively decide to make cycling the quickest and most affordable mode for most trips.
Welcome again, and welcome to those who joined just recently. My name is Veronica Ortiz. I am the Global Communications Director at ITDP. And well, it is important to position cycling as a climate solution. But we also need to acknowledge that cycling is an equitable means of transport when cities offer safe, comfortable places for people to ride. We are thrilled to share more about what Mexico City, Jakarta, and Rio de Janeiro, 3 of our cycling cities, are doing to make cycling more accessible for more people. So please join me to watch this next video.
People are bearing the costs of our transportation systems. With cars and other private vehicles dominating our streets, the air is unhealthy for us to breathe, roads are unsafe for us and our children, and public spaces are noisy and unattractive. Cities are also bearing costs. Congestion, sprawl, climate change. Is this the city we really want? Is this the normal we want to return to? Our cities can work better for us, with cleaner air, safer streets, and better access to opportunities and people. How? By elevating a centuries-old, cost-effective transport option, the bicycle. ITDP's Cycling Cities campaign believes that any city can be a beautiful and safe cycling city where policies and redesigned streets make cycling convenient, affordable, and enjoyable.
Lo más importante para pensar en por qué las personas usan la bicicleta es sin duda que se sientan seguros. Tener una red con infraestructura ciclista de alrededor de 600 kilómetros. Ecobici lleva operando en la Ciudad de México más de 10 años, con 6.500 bicicletas. Ahorita estamos en el proceso de licitación que tiene como objetivo llegar a 9.300 bicicletas y ampliarlo en la ciudad. En una avenida emblemática en la Ciudad de México, que es Avenida Insurgentes, se decidió que la ciclovía que se había puesto de forma emergente durante el peor momento de la pandemia se volviera parte de la infraestructura permanente.
Trabajo en una desarrolladora inmobiliaria. Tengo 12 años trasladándome en bici más o menos. Venía a pasar mi vida en un coche, era demasiado el tiempo de traslados. La verdad es que cuando yo empecé a andar, en esta vía esta era mi vía principal y yo me iba por la banqueta porque me daba muchísimo miedo. Cuando pusieron esta ciclovía fui la más feliz.
Sudah 3 tahun kurang lebih, karena sepeda pertama irit bensin, yang kedua untuk kesehatan juga karena sambil berolahraga, yang ketiga untuk membantu mengurangi polusi. Hal terbaik itu ya pertama jadi punya banyak teman, suka ketemu orang baru, sama jadi tahu tempat-tempat baru karena lebih seru aja kalau naik sepeda.
In the spirit of succeeding Sustainable Development Goals, Jakarta assigned priority to pedestrian, non-motorized vehicle, and public transport over private vehicles. We did not stop only on the bike lane, but moreover pushing the implementation of protected bike lane, plus construction other bicycle facilities such as parking, bike on board, and bike share, in order to push an even more utilization of bicycle for the first line mile modes. Transjakarta has provided bike racks in 41 bus stations, MRT in all 13 stations, and LRT in 3 out of 6 stations. Bike on board has also been implemented in MRT and LRT.
Ibu bersepeda sudah lama, dari mulai tahun 80 sampai saat ini 2021. Ibu selalu kemana-mana bersepeda, tidak pernah mengendarai kendaraan umum. Paling baik bersepeda di Jakarta ini ya istilahnya waktu dulu ada acara Car Free Day, itu kan memang kendaraan nggak boleh istilahnya nggak dari jam 6 pagi sampai jam 11.
Entonces aquí en la venta, pues la verdad se me hizo más fácil andar en un triciclo porque llegaba más rápido. Hay más gente en bicicleta y por una parte está bien porque es bueno hacer ejercicio en bicicleta.
Então não basta só a gente aumentar a rede cicloviária, é preciso dar também conforto e segurança para que as pessoas façam esse trajeto por bicicleta. Então a gente tem um plano de segurança viária, espera diminuir o número de acidentes, o número de homicídios no trânsito, para que as pessoas tenham tranquilidade e seja um meio de seguro. Isso também torna essa cidade uma cidade mais amigável para as pessoas, né? A bicicleta acaba focando mais no bem-estar e na experiência do pedestre, do ciclista em experimentar a cidade.
Karena bersepeda itu simple ya, dan saya sukanya naik sepeda itu tidak memproduksi karbon. Kota yang ramah bersepeda ya kota yang memberikan jalur sepeda, kemudian memberikan tempat parkir.
Cycling cities invest in safe, inclusive lanes, they make it easy to access key destinations by bicycle, and they design streets to move people instead of cars. Cycling cities address the urgent threats of climate change and air pollution. Cycling cities are
Mejores.
Enjoy.
Lo máximo.
Sangat bahagia sih.
Sana.
Tranquilo, sin estrés.
Tenang.
¡Hermosas!
Cycling cities are cities for all.
Yes, cycling cities are cities for all. And the video is going to be available in our YouTube channel. So we apologize for the inconvenience of the gray box. We finally could fix it, and you can see the whole video later in our YouTube channel. So Cycling Cities campaign isn't just about cities. We've also built a diverse coalition of partners working to elevate cycling at local, national, and global levels. In this next video, we'll hear from 3 of our partners about their work to ensure cycling is part of the city and national governments' toolkits to achieve a broader goals related to climate, health, road safety, and more. Join me to watch the next video.
My name is Janine Tunis, and I'm here today on behalf of UN Habitat in the city center of Nairobi, surrounded by passionate cyclists and city makers. Cycling is critically important for solving the climate issues, the air quality issues, and the congestion issues we face in our cities today. That's why UN Habitat is incredibly grateful and excited to be part of the Cycling Cities initiative going forward and changing the way that cities feel for people on bicycles everywhere.
In the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, cities like Berlin and Bogota quickly rolled out temporary bike lanes, making cycling a viable and attractive option to travel without using private vehicles. So how can cities leverage this momentum to create more sustainable mobility systems? ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, a global network of more than 1,750 cities and regions, works with the local authorities and their partners to plan for people-friendly, climate-neutral mobility options through eco-mobility, which gives priority to and integrates walking, cycling, public transport, and shared light electric vehicles. To promote cycling in cities, ICLEI brings global best practices to cities and gives the decision makers great access to technical expertise to develop sustainable urban mobility policies. Within the Eco-Mobility Alliance, we offer a platform for common local actions and facilitate peer-to-peer exchanges. Through the Eco-Mobility World Festival, a living lab to show how cities can adopt an eco-mobile approach within a neighborhood, ICLEI helps cities to create a forward-thinking urban transportation culture, looks forward to collaborating with partners in supporting cycling cities.
Cycling is one of the most important opportunities that we have for our transport systems in the future. Cycling is not only efficient, it's also affordable, it's healthy, and it will provide access to all of the people in cities, especially the young, adults, and also the elderly. When linked with electrification, it will provide massive benefits such as more physical activity without additional effort from people, which is one of the greatest barriers. Also, it will provide longer ranges for people to be able to travel within cities, but also connecting different cities and regions. And especially if linked to public transport systems, then it will enhance access to opportunities for everyone. We encourage you to keep promoting cycling, and best of luck to Cycling Cities from ITDP.
Thank you to all our participants. And we will move into the second half of the event. We will have a panel discussion moderated by Heather Thompson, ITDP CEO. And Heather and our panelists are joining us today from the COP in Glasgow. Joining us on the panel are representatives for 2 of our cycling cities, Councillor Anna Richardson, Head of Sustainability and Carbon Reduction at the Glasgow City Council, Sergio Chan, Deputy Director at the Institute of Mobility and Urban Development in Yucatan, Mexico. And we also have representatives from 3 organizations aligned with the Cycling Cities vision. Arturo Steinborg Alvarez, which we already heard talking in the previous video, who is a program coordinator and analyst at Slow Cut Partnership, Diarmid Campbell Lendrum, Head of Climate and Health Unit at the World Health Organization, and Sheila Watson, Deputy Director at the FIA Foundation. I'll turn things over to Heather to begin the discussion. Heather.
Thank you so much, Vero, for the great introduction. And it's really my honor to be here with all of you today. As Vero said, many of us, almost all of us on the panel, are tuning in from Glasgow, Scotland, where we have the International Climate Conference going on. And there are a lot of transport experts here passionate about electrification, but there is also a very small group of us, probably equally or even more passionate about cycling, because we know that cycling is the only true no carbon solution in the transport sector. So we are trying to make a big splash here at the COP to make sure everybody knows just how important it is. We are so excited to be launching the Cycling Cities campaign, and the idea is really to create a platform for all of you to learn from one another. At the core of our campaign, we are bringing together 25 cities and local and international partners from all over the world to learn from one another, inspire one another, and to do more on cycling in our cities around the world. So we're excited to get this started, and we know that this is just the beginning. And with that, I want to highlight some of our cities and partners to share a little bit more about why they're part of the campaign and some of the things that they have to share with you all as we kick this off for the next few years, with our goal of getting 250 cities on board and reaching protected cycle lanes for 25 million more people around the world by the year 2025. So with that, Anna, welcome from the city of Glasgow. I was so excited to meet Anna in person. You know, as we've all been locked down in COVID, it's just such an honor to actually be able to meet people in person. And Anna, you are joining us from Glasgow, where I know that you've been doing incredible things since the time of COVID and even before. So let me just ask you, what factors are motivating Glasgow to expand and invest in active travel and cycling in particular, and why now?
Thanks for that, and it was lovely to meet you yesterday as well. Here in Glasgow, we are absolutely committed to the type of work that will hit lots of objectives for the city all at once. So if we focus on active travel, so that's walking, cycling and wheeling as we refer to it here in Glasgow and in Scotland, that's not only improving our carbon emissions from transport, which is absolutely crucial for all big cities, it's also tackling transport inequality. Half of our households here in Glasgow do not have access to a car, so we need them to have public transport. We need them to have cycling as an option, and that's really exciting for us. And it just is going to make it a better city, a nicer city for everyone. At the moment, we are seeing increases in cycling, even where people are having to cycle on the roads, but that's not an equal and fair increase. What happens is certain parts of the population would love to cycle, but they don't feel safe. And we know that that's often women, that's families with children, that's older people, that's perhaps cyclists with disabilities who, if they're given the infrastructure, would be out there and moving around very easily by bike. So it's about equality, it's about carbon, and it's about reducing poverty and giving people that connectivity around the city all at once. Those are our key drivers. And the investment in cycling is so exciting because it hits all of those and it brings a huge return on that investment. So it's a really exciting and easy way for us to improve our cities.
Thank you, Anna, and I'm so glad you touched upon the access for women in particular, as today is Gender Equality Day here at the COP. So I'm glad you touched upon that. And I've also been really impressed that Glasgow has ambitious but really understandable goals, like having all residents within 800 meters of safe cycle lanes, and that Cycle Pass will allow anyone to reach the main parts of the city within 30 minutes, which makes perfect sense. In terms of getting residents in the city excited about this, how is the city addressing building will and appetite for change?
I think one of the things that's helping us is that we've already built some very good cycle routes that are segregated, they're very safe. And when we do data counts of those, we can see that the number of people who are cycling on those routes is increasing, and it's increasing significantly. So we have evidence and data that tells us that when we put the routes in, they do work. Across lockdown, we saw a real increase in people cycling when there were no cars, when there was no traffic. That isn't the same situation then when the traffic comes back. So what we do know is that there is that that desire for cycling that is being suppressed because of traffic. So we're very confident that as we build these cycle lanes, those people will get back onto their bikes and they will start to move around the city. And we also used lockdown to think about how people moved and to move them safely. Public transport was very difficult for cities during the height of the pandemic. So we, like many other cities, and we were lucky, the Scottish Government funded us to put in temporary cycle lanes. Those showed what we can do and how quickly we can start to build a network. That gave us some support as well, because a lot more people are using those, because people are seeing how quickly we can bring about change. They're not always popular, and we have had some pushback as well. And I think it's really important to say that this isn't easy. I sound very optimistic and very excited because I am absolutely convinced that we can do this and that we will do it, but it's not going to be easy. It will be worth it. And I think all of us as cities need to take heart from that, that there will be challenges. We'll be sharing the same challenges together, but I think we can do it.
Thank you, Anna, for that dose of optimism, but also realism. But also, I think that idea of build it and they will come is something that is true in the cycling world. Let me go across the world. Glasgow is one of our few cities that we have in our cycling cohort from Europe, because what we often hear is that many cities, their current situation is so different from the cities in Europe. And we really wanted to make sure that this campaign focused on many cities outside of Europe. We're happy to have Glasgow aboard as the host of the COP, and not a big city with years of success, but learning with the rest of us. But let me now go across the world to Mexico and the state of Yucatan and the city of Merida, and turn to you, Sergio. So Yucatan is the state where the city of Merida is located, which is one of our cycling cities. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, I know that you accelerated existing plans that the city already had to build more cycle lanes, and added more than 70 kilometers of cycle lanes in 2020 for a total of 470 kilometers in your network, which is really fantastic. How are you building on that momentum, and what has the response been? And maybe what are some of the challenges that you've confronted?
Well, something that was great in that moment, that all the political will was aligned. Our governor, Mauricio Vila Dosal, have been working about sustainable mobility since a long time. So when the time comes, we were ready to respond quickly. That was really, really great, because we were aligned with the municipality in Merida, also with the state, and we work as in our Institute of Mobility in a metropolitan scale. So we have been able to get more fundings to increase this infrastructure. That's why we have been able to build 71 kilometers this year, and but we are not going to stop there, because it was a really successful project. It was really difficult to make it happen. We have a strong opposition, but in time they accepted, and they knew that this is working. We have now doubled the cyclists in the streets that we made the projects, so that's a really good number. Before we have almost 30,000 cyclists per day. Now we have almost 50,000 cyclists per day. That's really great. We are the most cycling state in Mexico. So we have a great opportunity to increase this. And Merida is all flat. And even we are a very hot place to live. Well, it's almost the same all the year. So we can ride a bicycle in any time of the year. That is a great option for mobility. That's why it's so popular. But now we have made this visible for everyone, because before there was didn't notice before. Now that we have the bike lanes, they are visible. That was the main effort. We will build 265 more kilometers to have a complete bicycle network. That for us is the main reason to connect everything in that order, for everyone to can access these bike lanes and this mobility mode.
That's fantastic. It's I often hear that cycling doesn't work in very hot climates or very cold climates, and I know we have many cities part of our campaign here that are representing cold and hot climates like yours. Can you also, it sounds like the visibility of the bike lanes has been a big game changer, but how else are you helping people to understand the benefits of cycling and the results of this work to enable more support for what you're doing from the community?
Well, now we are we are counting the accidentality rates in every street that we have already changed in order to make that safer for cyclists, reduce speeds, and put everything in order. So we are going to launch at the end of this year our annual report of use of the bicycle, where we are going to spread out a lot of data that will support this kind of interventions. But in another way, we are also including the society. We have make a council, a citizen council of to boost the cyclist network and the bicycle use for commute, and we have make this council with a majority of the society, with the universities, with the entrepreneurs, with the tourism sector, and we have included also the most important civil association of that fights years ago for this city inclusion for the bike, and also for women, and for the people with disabilities. So we have included all of this in one council that we are working together to boost this kind of intervention, because in every street that we have already changed is better for everyone, is safer, is we have all not just worked with the bike lanes, we have already worked with the footpaths, make them accessible for everyone. And that is a really great thing that every person that have talked to us about this have said that it's easier to walk through new streets. And we are not working just with bike lanes and bicycle transport. We are working also with public transport. We are going to launch this 27 in November, our new peripheral line of buses that will have equipped with bike racks. So you will be able to get in these new buses and turn all the city around and continue your travel with the bike. And we are also making a lot of efforts with bike ports to parking our bikes. And we are also a young team that every one of us use bikes. So we can say to everyone that it is possible to move by bicycle, and we are making that even visible also in our all social networks.
That's fantastic, Sergio. It sounds like you guys are very busy doing so many things. And for all of those of you joining for the campaign, we really, again, want to make this a platform for all of you. One thing that we've heard that there's a lot of interest in is collecting data and sharing data so we can make the case stronger at the global level. So that's something we want to work on with all of you. We know there's a lot more data out there that we can put together. And another thing that always comes up is the issue of safety. And so there's many things that we can do on safety. It's about education, it's about advocacy, thinking about how we can learn from one another to be stronger advocates. And it's also simple things, simple but challenging things, like how to design better intersections. I know intersections are often a challenge from an engineering perspective. So we want to help all of you learn from one another, from expertise and experience that's all already out there, and inspire one another. And Sergio, it sounds like you all are doing great things in Yucatan. So we look forward to learning from you. Sheila, let me turn next to you next. Sheila from the FIA Foundation. FIA Foundation has been really focused on road safety for so many years, doing really great things, supporting work at the city level, but also at the international level to get more focus on road safety. One of the big emphasis I know that you all have been working on is safe routes to school, and how can we make areas around schools safer, which is so important. So as unsafe roads are a major barrier to people feeling safe on the bicycle, how is FIA Foundation's Safe Routes to School initiative tackling this issue? And what have been the impacts in getting more children and families to cycle?
Hi, Heather, and I apologize in advance. I'm slap bang in the middle of a building I think they call the Armadillo. So goodness knows where the noises are coming from, but I can only apologize. Yeah, so the foundation, as you say, is very committed to the work around keeping kids safe in their journey to school. And there are a whole range of different ways in which we've supported initiatives and in which we advocate to try and make that journey as safe as possible. So all the way from advocating for reduced speeds so that public spaces and these ostensibly shared spaces actually feel safe when you're not, in a metal box going really rather quickly. So increasing active mobility because people feel safe in the space, and that's speed right the way through to road design, improving crossings, improving the infrastructure facilities that enable, again, human beings to be safe in areas where there are also motorized vehicles. But we do other things as well over and above the physical infrastructure side of things. We work a lot on trying to clean up vehicles so that emissions are far reduced, because of course the health impact of pollution is just as great in many ways as the health impact of road traffic incidents and so on. So it's a mix of things. It's really trying to take a whole systems-based look at our mobility patterns, but really very much putting the human being first and the relevant machine really second. Except I guess when it comes to cycling, because it's a great machine and it takes up less space. So many of these points have been touched on. It helps us all stay fit. As I said, the emissions are not there. It's better for your health, and also equity and access. It's one of those aspects of mobility which is much more widely available and much more accessible, and then enables accessibility too. So yeah, cycling and sharing the road, which is the name of one of the projects that we support, is really central to what we're trying to do.
Thanks. I know that we've been working in our partnership with you in a number of places, including in Mexico City, where I'm always inspired to see what's going on on the ground there. And I know even some of our teams have copied the work in Mexico City and other cities around the world, because getting school children involved can be so powerful in trying to convince mayors and other city decision makers to do the right thing. So I think there's probably a lot of advocacy lessons that others can copy here around the world. Can you tell me, in terms of building support for cycling, what lessons do you have from working with schools and parents and children? And what have been some of the most effective partnerships that have led to change on the ground and that might inspire some of our cities and partners here today?
Well, I mean, there is a really broad range, and one of the things I think we're very conscious of is that whilst there may be some sort of core similarities and themes around how each of our children makes their way to school each day, there are real differences too. So we've never really subscribed to the idea of just supplying set piece solutions. I think everyone has to draw from each other the ideas that fit and work. I think in terms of getting families to feel safe using cycles or indeed walking on their journey, then those issues I mentioned before are absolutely key. And I think where we are able to work and show the results of the work that we're doing. So one example that would always come to mind is the work we do with Amend in Africa, and that is very practical, and it's very schools based, and it's very much around taking power into your own hands and generating change, and then evaluating impact and showing how much better it makes things. So it's that kind of connection between real day-to-day and practical changes, but always bearing in mind that experiences are different in different parts of the world, and that's something we have to be very conscious of. The core issue of staying safe is there, and that's the advocacy part, but the elements that might go up to make that change, they can really differ. But I think that the Amend project is one which is actually prize winning and which we're very proud of working with.
Excellent. Thank you, Sheila. And again, I'm sure there's a lot to learn from, and we look forward to highlighting some of the work in our capacity building sessions over the next months and years. I was happy to see here in the COP pavilion, there was a big tree that was created with leaves that were made by children with their promises on what they would do to help climate change. And I saw many children had said, I promise to ride my bicycle to school every day. So that made me very happy. We have to start young, right? Well, Dermot, let me turn to you. Dermot, from the World Health Organization, WHO, who's been very active here in the COP. It seems like every day there's something big coming from the WHO. As you become more and more active on the relationship between climate change, health, and active mobility, I know you've been launching a number of tools and statements here at the COP. So some of the most significant impacts from a shift to more cycling is on public health and reduced rates of non-communicable diseases and mortality, while also helping to help mitigate the health impacts from climate change. So I saw in your Open Healthy Climate letter that you stated, climate crisis is the single biggest health threat facing humanity. So how would you like to see the health sector and the transport sector partner together to create more resilient and healthier cities in the face of the climate crisis?
Well, first off, thanks very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm also speaking from inside the COP. I'm probably sharing the same internet bandwidth as many of you, so apologies if I have to turn my video off at some point. But I think we're really pleased to be able to support this campaign. We do think it's critically important because, as you said, we've launched a series of things here at the COP, and one of the things that we launched before the COP was a report on the health argument for climate action, and what that had in it was 10 recommendations for national governments, on the leaders basically that are gathered here in COP, to make clear the health advantages of acting on climate change. And it goes across the board. There's a whole series of things about resilience and fossil fuel subsidies and so on. But one of the recommendations in there is on transforming urban systems and transforming transport systems. And within that, we're very clear that we need to promote, from a health point of view, not only a climate change point of view, from a health point of view, actions that will allow people to move around safely, but that also reduce health threats at the same time as cutting carbon emissions. And as you just said, Heather, that nowadays that is mainly non-communicable disease. Those are the biggest health burdens that we have. So the recommendations there are sort of supportive of electric vehicles, better than other kinds of vehicles. But we're also very clear that it's even better if you can get people out of their cars and if you can promote active transport, integrated. And I've seen some of the comments that have been made and the comments in the chat, integrated with other forms of transport as well. So your walking system links up with your cycling system, links up with your public transport system. So we're very happy to get behind that recommendation. And I know you know this, Heather, but we delivered that report by bike from Geneva to London, and then with a group of National Health Service workers delivered it in a relay from London to Glasgow with health workers, using that mode of transport as the greenest mode of transport, the most and the healthiest mode of transport, to deliver that message to the COP. So we're very, very much in favour of this, and we think it should have a strong place in the climate change discussions, not just because of the carbon benefits, but also the health benefits. So, I mean, I'm sure you've all seen, particularly in the climate change discussion, bikes with "This machine fights climate change" on them. but this machine also fights heart disease, it fights respiratory illness, even fights mental illness. So we're very happy to promote those. And again, as you've been very clear, there are things that need to go with that around behaviour change and so on, but also around infrastructure, because people quite rightly won't feel safe. They won't put their children on bicycles unless the infrastructure is there in order to support that. But yeah, we're absolutely delighted to support this campaign.
Excellent, thank you. And one other thing that I know that you've launched here at the COP is a new version of the HEAT tool, which I think would be really of value to many of our cities and advocates. Can you say a little bit more about the HEAT tool and how it might be of use?
Yeah, I'm really happy to do that. So colleagues who work on air pollution and colleagues who work in our European Regional Office and others around WHO have teamed up to create this this HEAT tool, which basically is a tool for assessing and quantifying the health gains of active transport. So it looks at if we're able to shift a certain part of the population away from more polluting energy sources, it puts a number on the amount of lives we saved or reduced health impacts due to the increases in active transport, because that is the kind of numbers that we think will help to support policymakers to support these kinds of changes, because we can show what a positive difference active transport, including cycling, makes in their lives. So again, this is a really nice collaboration, we think, with other groups. We can provide that kind of analytical expertise, and we would like us as a health agency to also be a support to any transport ministry or any city authority that is going to get behind and the interventions that are needed to support more active transport.
Excellent, thank you, Dermot. And again, going back to, I think, the point Sergio made earlier, we need data to make the case both locally and globally. I think, Anna, you made it as well. So we look forward to making the HEAT tool available to all the cities and getting guidance on how to use it. And hopefully that can help with our advocacy locally and again, globally. Arturo, let me last but not least turn to you, focused on the big picture. SLOCAT is an advocate of transportation, low carbon transportation and climate policy. And I know you are at the COP. So SLOCAT has just released its key transformations for sustainable low carbon land transport, where cycling was mentioned as a priority. So based on this report, what needs to happen to position cycling as the zero carbon transport mode? And especially as many national governments are focusing on vehicle electrification, what messaging and tools might be effective?
Thank you, Heather, and glad to hear about all the experiences before. That's the difficult thing about being the last person talking at a panel, that you basically have nothing to say because everything has been said. Although in terms of electrification, countries need and cities need to understand that it goes way beyond just cars, and especially taking advantage of e-bikes and e-cargo bikes will be a great opportunity for cities, not only to reduce emissions, to improve health, as we've seen, and to provide more access, as Anna was saying during her intervention. But if we look at it from the business side and from the freight side, then we'll see that it also provides a great opportunity for companies to basically reduce their costs of travel to city centers, especially now that we're looking forward to having low emission zones in a lot of the cities around the world. So it's not only seen from a passenger perspective, but we also have to see the opportunities from the freight sector or freight transport. So electrification needs to go way beyond just cars and start looking at how to provide that access that cars might provide at a really low cost through e-bikes, and also a more reliable way of travel that I think it's something that we tend to underestimate. Basically, if you're all cyclists or if you've all cycled at some point, you know how long it's going to take to you to ride your bike to wherever you're going. because every day it's basically the same time. Whereas when you take a vehicle, it's lottery in the end. You don't really know how is it going to go, if you're going to get into a congested situation. So that time reliability that is very important for businesses is also let's say a tool to sell cycling as one of the, or if not the best option to move around urban areas.
Thank you, Arturo. I'm so glad you brought up e-bikes. I think electric bikes, electric freight cargo bikes have really been a game changer. And although I don't ever want people to not be able to get a hold of one, it has been so exciting to see that they've been flying off the shelves and in many places difficult to buy because there's so much demand for e-bikes. I've seen a few e-bike stores here in Glasgow, which is also very exciting, and a lot of cargo bikes on the street. So things are changing and we know we can do it.
If I can make just one last comment, I bought an e-bike during COVID back in Costa Rica. Costa Rica, and especially San Jose, the capital city, it's a tropical and hilly context. So it's basically magic. It basically let me visit friends and family 10 kilometers away from where I live, just because I'm doing the same effort. Let's say I'm not dying or feel like dying as if I'm going up a hill, but it's still allowed me the opportunity to visit people and to have that social connection during that time within a healthy and socially distant way. So it's something that I would recommend, especially as we've seen that transport is really depending on the context which you're in. And for hilly cities such as San Jose, and that's one of the main barriers that we always hear mentioned, terrain-wise, electric vehicles, especially e-bikes, will make a whole lot of difference going forward.
I love that. E-bikes are magic. E-bikes are magic. I think also electrification makes it cool, right? We hear so many places that bicycles are, you know, not a luxury item and people don't necessarily want to ride them. But I think e-bikes also are a game changer because it changes the image. E-bikes are magic. So I think 2 takeaway comments from this is e-bikes are magic, and build it and they will come with a protected bike lane. So thank you, all of you, for being here. 2 of our cycling cities with Glasgow. Ana, thank you. Sergio from the Yucatan and Merida, and to our global partners, Diarmid, Arturo, and Sheila. We're so happy to have you with us. And to all of you joining on the line, again, this platform is meant to be your platform. And our goal is to get 250 cities and partners joining us with a goal of 25 million more people having access to safe cycle lanes by 2025. And we've modeled this out. We know it's possible. We absolutely know it's possible. And we want to work with you to make that happen. So thank you all for being here. And Vero, let me turn it over to you to close us on out. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And safe cycling cities. Let's go.
Thank you so much, Heather. And thank you to the panelists for such an enriching conversation, to hear your perspectives, your experiences, and your sharings. It's really inspiring. We are very, very excited to kick this campaign off with all of you. We need all of you out there to make this happen. We won't stop. Cycling cities are for all, as we just saw in the video. This is not only for young people. This is not only a fashionable thing. This is really a solution, and it's a right to the city, a right to a better world. So we want to move from fear to hope and transform our cities for the best. This is the moment, and we need to prevent the unfolding climate crisis while creating healthier and happier places. You can join the Cycling Cities community by signing the pledge on our website, cyclingcities.itdp.org, and be part of this movement. We will share lessons learned, tips for change, inspirational stories, and technical resources to support this transformation. But you can do more. You can find your local cycling groups and join them. You can advocate and join in for car-free days. You can work with your city's authorities to plan and build protected cycle lanes and a cycling strategy for the cities. And remember, I mean, Heather just shared this story of kids sharing their promises to cycle. And yeah, I mean, it's wonderful that they promise that, but it is our work, our responsibility to make that possible for them and safe for them. So we need to join forces. And even just ride if you can. Find joy, explore your city on a bike, do that, you know, trips that you sometimes do, different vehicles, bicycling. And well, we'll see you in next occasion. Keep tuned in our website. If you sign the pledge, you will receive our newsletter with our updates and news. And by joining our community, you will have support to do all these things locally. Together we are stronger and we can support action to the ground. A better world for us, for our children, for future generations is possible, and this is the moment to make this happen. This is just the beginning for Cycling Cities, and we'll look forward to working with many more of you to unlock the benefits of cycling for more people in more cities around the world. Thank you so much for joining today. Keep in touch. Have a very, very nice day.